Now that we've created our plot here, we're going to move on to sheet 2 and talk about some of the text manipulation functions in Excel. And I've already done these, so let me delete these. The first is we can convert a text string in a cell to lowercase by using the lower function. So lower parenthesis and click on the text, close parenthesis and hit enter. We could also convert it to upper, so equals upper, and you'll see we have a list of possible functions based on what we've typed in, and once you have the correct one shown in blue, we can hit the tab key and it'll autocomplete, and then we can very conveniently go right into the argument list. So again, proper will allow me to capitalize the first letter of each word, and again I can use tab to autocomplete and then pick the cell that I want to reference. So these are nice. They are convenient in certain cases, but some of the more powerful ones come from extracting bits of text from a text string. So an example here is if I want the first letter of your first name, we can use the left formula, and the arguments are the text and then the number of characters. So if I only want the first letter, I only need one character, so it returns P. What I could do then is use the right formula to return values from the right. So if I want to grab just my last name, there are 9 characters there, so I select the text and use 9. And then if I wanted to grab something from the middle of a text string, there's another function called mid, and it takes an argument of the text, comma, the starting number. So I want to start it at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 characters. Since there's a space in there, that counts as a character, and I just want to return 1 character. So that gives me my first letter of my first name, the last name, and then my middle initial. If we were to change the name to something like one of our former presidents, George W. Bush, you can see the first letter of the first name still works, the last name no longer works, and the middle initial is broken as well. If we look at the last name, it doesn't work because we're still using 9 characters because we hard-coded that value of 9 in there. And the mid doesn't work because we don't want to start at character 7. We want to start at character 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this isn't very useful. If we have a whole list of people, we'd have to go in and manually type in the numbers ourselves. So we can take advantage of another function called find. So to give you an example, if I have the word apple and I want to find the first P in there, we would type in equals find. We're looking for the text P, so text strings in Excel are in double quotes. We're looking for it within this text cell, and we want to start at 1, which is the default. So we can either type in the formula exactly as it is, or we could come in and modify it and add the third argument. So you see it's in square brackets, so that means it's optional. We could still type in 1 and it'll give us the same exact thing. So that tells us that the P occurs in the second position of that text string. We can leverage this capability to figure out where certain characters are in this name string. So in this particular format, it's first name, space, middle initial, and there may or may not be a period, space, last name. So if we wanted to find the starting point of the middle initial, it would be equal to find, and then we're looking for a space character. So parenthesis, space, parenthesis within our name text, and we want to start at cell 1. So that tells us the space occurs at 7. So what we could do is use mid, and we're going to use the mid of this text, and the starting number is 7 plus 1. We don't want to start at the space, we want the next character, and we want one character there. So you can see this helps for the middle initial, And instead of relying on another cell, we can actually replace this F12 with the contents of the cell. So we can grab this find function, copy it using Control C, come back over, and instead of F12 I'm going to paste it in there. So I can put the find function directly as an argument, and now it only references cell A12, which is my text string. And that works pretty well. We can do something similar for the last name. So the last name is a little more complicated because we need to find the second occurrence of a space. So to do that, let's work on it in an individual cell here first. So it's going to be find, and we're looking for a space, and we're looking within the same text string, but now we want to start at one position after the first space. So to find the first space, we'll use find again, and then we're looking in that text and we want to start at 1, and this is going to form the starting position of this find function, which is going to locate the second space. So instead of starting at the first space, we're going to start at the first space plus 1. So again, we're using two find functions. This nested find will locate the first space, and then we're adding 1 to it, and that serves as the starting position when we're locating the second space. So this returns the value of 10, and that's actually what we want to use to find the last name. So that's where the space is right before the last name. So if we knew how long the entire string was, and we know where the second space starts, we can actually then use the write function to return the correct number of characters. So let's take a look at how this works. So we're still going to use write, but now what we're going to do is compute the length of the entire text string, which is the length, len, of our text string. So that will give us the total number of characters, and then if we subtract this cell, what we'll have is the last name, and we may have to add 1 or subtract 1. I can't recall, so let's look at what we have. So it turns out if we take the length minus the position of the space, we have the correct number of characters. So again, instead of referring to G12, let's click on this formula to edit it, and we're going to copy the formula using Control C, hit escape to escape out of the cell, go back in here and replace G12 now with that whole argument. So it's kind of a long and complicated looking formula, but if we break it into individual parts, it becomes a little clearer as to what we're doing. So if I hit enter now, it will return the last name regardless of what I type in here. So for instance, Samuel L. Jackson also works, which makes it very convenient if we have a list of people, let's say all the students enrolled in the University of Dayton, and we may want to create usernames for them that require a last name, a first initial of your first name, and maybe some unique number identifier. So we can leverage the left equation, the right, the find, and the mid to do quite a lot with text manipulation.